Today on Cinema and Cocktails, our theme is guys going through it. As we check out a couple of normally comedic actors successfully stretch themselves artistically as they muddle their way through the wreckage of broken relationships. So if you want to see a different perspective on how the other gender handles breakups, this episode is for you. I'm your host, Michael Edmonds, and as always, let's watch these movies and make those drinks. Will Henry is a graphic novelist balancing parenting and a classroom full of students while exploring the complexities of dating and letting go of the woman who left him. Thus, the synopsis of People, Places, Things. Now, this isn't like, somebody reinventing the wheel. I mean, we've seen films before where couples break up, but usually it's always with the guy or the husband just, getting up one day and, leaving the wife behind for the hot new secretary or some girlfriend he's been seeing on the side. And, the mother or the wife is left there behind to kind of figure things out. Well, and this one, the shoe's on the other foot. And the wife this time around decides, you know what, I'm out. And she leaves the husband behind to try to figure things out. And that's the predicament we find Jermaine Clement, who plays our lead protagonist in this film. Now, Jermaine plays Will Henry, and Jermaine has roughly about 62 credits to his name as far as, his employment as an actor. He hit the big stage, or at least, when I first took notice of him was when he was in a little small time TV show called Flight of the Conchords, which was on HBO. I like dry, silly humor. So for me, it was kind of funny. He made an appearance in Dinner for Schmucks. He was also in Men in Black 3. But he's a much bigger star on TV shows. And there are just, there's a whole bunch of them that I could name. But some of the highlights include, What We Do in the Shadows, Legion, Kirk and Lou. He's also been he's also done a number of animated voices for animated films, such as Moana. He was in the Lego Batman movie and Despicable Me. Now, apparently, I've heard rumors about this. For those of you that are heavily into the movie industry, apparently there's going to be not one, not two, not three, but 4 more avatars. And yes, Jermaine Clement is going to be in all 4 of them. So apparently there's going to be an Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5. Wow. So, looking for big things for him. I think you're going to see a lot of him in the upcoming years here, in the next few years. Stephanie Allen, she plays Charlie, who happens to be Will Henry's wife. She's got about 71 credits to her name, lots of shorts and TV series. Hasn't quite punched all the way through to stardom. This film was a pop out for her. I think she kind of it was like, boom, here she is. But she still continues to do a lot of shorts and television. She's appeared in Twin Peaks. She's been on the L Word, Generation Q, One Mississippi, and she was also in a movie called Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates. I don't recall. I mean, I remember seeing the commercials for it, but I don't know if it was a commercial hit. The one actress who I'm really intrigued about in this is Jessica Williams. Now, she plays Kat. And she's got about 22 credits to her name, but she seems to be extremely talented. And when she's on screen, she has this presence about her. She's a young black woman, and she's tall, and she has these like ever flowing braids coming out, and she just looks fantastic. But she has such a presence when she's on the screen. Now, she was in the HBO series as Karen. She was in Hot Tub Time Machine 2, and she's played on a number of skits on The Daily Show for about 5 years. She was also in a film called The Incredible Jessica James, and she was also in another movie directed by Olivia Wilde entitled Booksmart. So I'm curious to see, what we're going to see from Jessica Williams in the upcoming years, because she looks like she's like on the edge of possibly becoming, hopefully, something big. And then the incomparable Regina Hall. She plays Diane, homegirl, right out of Washington, D.C. man, way too many numerous memorable roles. I remember I first fell in love with her when she was Brenda in Scary Movie. I don't know, for whatever reason, she just cracked me up when she was in the Scary Movie franchise. But she also played Keisha in Paid in Full. She was in a big budget film called Law Abiding Citizen, opposite Jamie Foxx. She was at Death at a Funeral, Best Man Holiday. She was in a very touching romantic comedy called About Last Night. She's been on Blackish, Insecure, and she was recently in the very powerful drama The Hate U Give, and she's also been on a TV series called Black Monday. So for those of you that like Regina Hall, it's nice to see her in this movie. So personally, like I said, I thought she was great. Now, as far as the characters that each one of these actors play, there were a lot of arc changes to them, but as much as those arcs began to change, they kind of all came back to where they started from. So like for me, like for instance, like Will, he seems to, his arc seems flat, because he spends most of the film trying to navigate the new hardships of being a single dad. So you really don't know if he's growing or if he's regressing or if he's kind of staying the same. You kind of see things kind of go up and go down with him. But by the end of the movie, it's kind of hard to say if he really changed very much. Now, his wife who left him, Charlie, she did change. Okay. Now she started out one way in the beginning of the film as far as what she wanted, what she was hoping for. And then towards the middle of the film, she kind of waffles back and forth on some of her issues. Because on one hand, she feels this need to kind of chase her dreams. But then on the other hand, she has this very intense sense of motherhood. But ultimately, as you get towards the climax of the film, she decides what's best for her. Now, Kat, her arc pretty much just stays flat. She's the same young woman that she is in the beginning of the movie that she's at the end of the movie. But her role is very important because while she's only on screen, in flashes, she does a great job with unveiling some of the character flaws in some of the other roles that are being played. And now Diane, she also goes through a few changes, but she is a single mom. She's actually Kat's mom. She's a single mom, and she's just trying to deal with, raising a child and being a good mom and being a professional. And so when you have a scorned lover, as you find out in the movie, those individuals start in one place, they change a little bit. If love blossoms, they take off. If not, they pretty much go back to being who they were. So I can't really say even if Diane's character kind of went through any big time changes. Now, a lot of that is exemplified in the language and the dialogue that they use in the film. And the subtext I thought was fantastically done in this movie. Now, yet be careful. Okay. When you first watch this movie, you really have to get used to Jermaine Clement's style. Okay. He is from New Zealand. He has a bit of an accent and his delivery is really monotone. I mean, when he talks, he just kind of talks like this, and sometimes you can barely hear him whenever he speaks his words. He just kind of mumbles over stuff. So it's like you have to almost sometimes like rewind it back and say, what did he just say? But over time, you get kind of used to it. He says a lot of not necessarily abstract things in the sense that you can't understand what he's talking about, but he says things that are kind of like so generalized, it kind of forces you to think about what's happening and how they fit into the scenes and what exactly is he trying to convey. His dry humor is sometimes, it's really hard to catch sometimes, but if I've watched it a couple of times. So for me, when I watch it, I kind of laugh out loud. But the best part of the subtext that's in this movie is the cartoon drawings. So Clement plays a graphic novelist. And so what do graphic novelists do? They draw to explain what it is that they're thinking or what they're feeling. And so when the movie opens up, you are privy to a series of cartoon drawings explaining how we ultimately get to the opening first act. And there are also other points in the film where the cartoons are used to explain what Will Henry is thinking about when he's faced with certain decisions. Artistically, I thought it was an ingenious way to convey his thought process without him actually even saying a word. Now, the story. What exactly is this movie about? Well, thematically, I thought it revolves around the basic conflict of Will versus himself. He is really trying to learn how to deal with the fact that he hasn't been the greatest husband over the years. And he's trying to resolve some issues that revolve around his ability to relate to others and to be honest to himself. So because of this, like when his wife leaves him, he has to kind of I won't say go on his journey, but it's kind of like a rite of passage for him where he's learning how to be a responsible father, navigate the dating scene, trying to be a good teacher. And he see him juggle all these things. And it's easy to see as he's, as he's dealing with all these issues, what his problems are. And he has to go through a lot of these things in order to confront some of these particular issues. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say that I don't want to use the word redemption, as far as a quality in one of the ideas, but some of the cartoons kind of portray him in a sympathetic light. And so you're trying to wonder, as you're watching it, you're wondering, like, how is he going to try to overcome some of his own insecurities and some of his own inabilities that you see portrayed in some of the images. So it's an interesting way that it's kind of told. Now, the structure of the film, it follows your typical, 4-act, 3-act sequence, but the first act is really, really short. I mean, when the movie starts, boom, the marriage is over. Okay. And then from there, you see him try to learn how to navigate his new world as a single dad. And then, about midway through the film, he's trying to do the dating thing and things get a little bit complicated. And then by the time you get to the third act, he kind of realizes what needs to be done. And that's, for you all to watch and to discover. I can't really say there's a climax in this. I mean, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I guess it's up to the interpretation of the viewer, but it's kind of weird how it kind of all kind of comes to a close. Now, the film was written and directed by Jim Stouse, who only has about 9 credits to his name. And he's best known for a film starring Jessica Williams, known as The Incredible Jessica James. And he's also known for New York, I Love You. I thought the artistry that he used and the cartoon images were great as a companion storyteller. The outfits that they gave the actors really, really fit who they were. Like, nobody in this film is filthy rich. Nobody in this film is dirt poor. They're all kind of like, middle America. They're all kind of like right there in that suburban area. So there's some moments where Clement comes to work and he really looks like a art professor. Like, he's just like disheveled. He's got the t-shirt on, the jeans, the sneakers. It's just, it's neat the way they had him dressed up in certain outfits. And as far as the music goes, I thought the music was very, very appropriate. Sometimes with a film like this, you don't even really need commercial songs. Sometimes just a few piano keys or, some guitar strings playing is just good enough because the story carries itself. You don't need anything to elicit any kind of emotion. So what worked? I thought the gentle storytelling and watching a male go through a breakup was well done. We are so used to seeing women go through these difficult moments, and it was nice to see a male try to juggle all the issues that women have to constantly juggle on a daily basis, even when they are married or in a relationship. The twin girls were awesome. He has 2 little girls in the movie who I thought were just, the way the director used them at certain points in the movie is just absolutely fantastic. It's just enough, not too much, but just enough. Now, on the flip side of that, what fell short for me, I thought, was the wife's development. I wish we would have learned a little bit more about her angst and her frustration, because it just kind of like erupted like a volcano. And obviously that was done, for, plot purposes to kind of move the story along. But it would have been, kind of cool to kind of see where this was coming from, or, how it all kind of, how it all kind of happened with her just all of a sudden needing to find her voice. And also, I really would have liked to have seen more Regina Hall. I thought she was completely underused. Would have loved to have seen more of her, and how she was a part of this wonderful love story. So it's just she was here, she was there, but it's like she really could have been used a lot more. At least that's what I think. As far as an overall rating, the film got an R rating because there's a little bit of frontal nudity, but that really was about it. So if you want to watch this movie with your kids in the room, you're actually pretty safe. There's a few curse words here and there, but I think the only reason why I got an R rating was because of the nudity. So, you're actually okay. As far as the Aristotle Index goes, the unconvincing possibilities, there were only 2. And the 2 that I thought were ones that really made me question if I was married and my wife was involved in said circumstances,